Hi everybody, welcome to the Native Wildman channel. Your host Sean Catfish Wilson speaking, and today I am out fishing at Milford Lake Reservoir. I don't know if you can hear me with the wind, but you turn around, got that rod there, Ugly Stick Tiger. Unfortunately, they don't put the Fuji eyes on it anymore. They go with the Ugly Tough, which, mistake in my eyes, my viewpoint, but oh well. I'll have to find a different brand to replace them if I ever need to. I've got my 12-foot Shakespeare Ugly Stick, big water, with the Fuji eyes. Maybe enough people should complain to Ugly Stick and tell them to go back to the Fuji eyes. At least on their like higher quality rods. Like their Tiger rods and their big water 12-foot rods. Because their Ugly Tough eyes, the braid's gonna, I use braid and that's just gonna tear the eye holes up. Alright, that's my friend's the Shakespeare Tidewater rod. This is his new rod. He had to go back to Wamego to give his wife some keys. And a hug and a kiss. So he left me out here at Milford. And then he's got his Ugly Stick big water like I do. His is 10 foot, mine's 12 foot. They're really the same rod. What's 2 feet? And this Ugly Stick Tiger rod casting. I had problems with the bait caster when I first came out here. It was wanting to stick to one side, and I don't know how much you guys know about worm gears. I think I'm pronouncing it right or saying it right, but anyways, it comes out, it kind of like spikes like that with like a kind of a crescent moon shape on this little cylinder rod thing that's like, yeah, it's real small. But anyways, it is all gunked up with a whole bunch of nasty, well, I guess just gunk stuff from over the years of fishing. I took it apart and cleaned it last year, but I guess I didn't clean the worm gear because it didn't look like it needed it at the time, but perhaps I should have. But I got it working. I got it working, so it's all good. Alright, the fish, I caught one fish today. It was a little blue cat about probably from about this part of the rod down, about 20 inches long. So it didn't put up much of a fight with any of the rods I have. Alright, I'm going to switch you guys back to front view. Hi everybody, now look at my gray hair and say, hey, that guy's got a little bit more wisdom to him than some others. I'm turning into a wizard. That's why I'm getting gray hairs, yeah. I'm slowly turning into Merlin. Anyways, I shaved most of my beard. You can tell. If it looks crooked, let me know. And maybe I'll try and fix it. Go somewhere and fix it, maybe. So anyways, today's discussion, I want to talk about what I would do if I would had the land to build a pond. What fish would I stock in it? Why? I'm gonna give you a few few things. They're my opinions. Some of it's opinion. Some of it's actually pretty good knowledge to know when you build a pond. I mean, you always want to research your area and climate and what fish you would like to stock in it that live. But my opinion, if I'm gonna make a pond for fish that I'd want to eat, I would go with crappie, because crappie's pretty good eating. They spawn quite often, or not quite. I mean, they have pretty large clutches, and they can populate a smaller pond fairly fast. Bluegill's good eating, but before you even worry about what fish you want to put in the pond, you want to get the pond dug. You want to put cover in it, such as big boulders, rocks, logs. Maybe you can get some of that old ceramic drain stuff. You know, that really big ceramic pipe that they use for, I think they probably use it for a lot of stuff, but I think it's sewers that they use it for, like storm drainage type sewer, not like nasty stuff that you flush down your pooper and you don't want to have anything like gray water. I think it's called gray water. Or maybe old concrete pipes would be something good. It depends on how much land you have, how much space you have to build a pond. So you put your cover in there, get it filled with water. First thing you want to stock in it would probably be your smaller minnow species, like fathead minnows, because they spawned up to, depending on your climate, like about 3, maybe 4 times a year. And again, you'd want to do the research and find out what their spawnings are in your area, or what your local minnow species is. But I think fathead's probably what they sell at most bait shops, is fathead, maybe shiners. But you start with minnows and other smaller fish species that get not big, and you put as many as you can get, or, well, first do the research and see how much fish you can have per size of pond you have, whatnot. But you want to get a good stock of minnow, good forage fish in there. And you want to have let them spawn, at least give them 2 years before you add bigger fish. And then after I would add minnows, I would probably add something like bluegill, green sunfish because it's my favorite flathead bait. They're the most hardy. Bluegill be tough to eat. Oh, green sunfish aren't that bad eating. I've eaten them before. They're pretty good, and they're aggressive little fish, and put up a pretty good fight for a small fish. So I'd go with bluegill, green sunfish, and give those about a year to spawn and reproduce. And then I would stock it with for eating. Okay, this would be the basic, like the first fish you'd want to stock in a pond. And you can eat the bluegill and green. Well, you can eat minnows too if some of them get big enough, like chub minnow, but they're more of a crick species and they prefer running water. But get your forage fish, let them reproduce pretty heavily in there. And then you introduce your smaller predator fish like green sunfish, bluegill. Maybe on the forage fish add shad if you can have. You probably need quite a bit of room to add shad though. But get your forage fish set together first. Then you move on to your smaller panfish. Then after you go to your panfish like bluegill and green sunfish, I would jump to crappie. I'd put my crappie in. If I was gonna, okay, for your smaller ponds, you don't want to mix crappie and bass. They'll just compete too much for the same foods. You had to have a fairly decent sized pond to put crappie and bass both, so I'd pick crappie if I wanted the fish to eat. Crappie and catfish. You can always put channel cat in there. And then a pond, 2-3 pound channel cat, perfect eating size. That's about a year-old fish. And for eating, you probably could stock it, the crappie and the channel cat at the same time. But I would stock the crappie, wait a year, then I'd stock channel cat in. And then after the pond's established, you'll probably get frogs and other forage. I would suggest trying to have a decent, thick rooted grass around the pond to kind of filter out the runoff. Have like a pretty decent, like 30-40 feet around with pretty decent grass to filter out sediment and stuff from filling up your pond. Also, you want to have your pond at different depths too. Deep spots, shallow spots, mixed up. However you wish to design it, but you want. I guess adding the cover would naturally put different depths, because you'll get your rocks that are different sizes and whatnot, or whatever you decide to put in there. PVC Christmas tree or something that you make if you're doing crappie. Oh, am I getting a bite? Nope. And if I'm going for sport fish, I would probably stock the pond with smallmouth bass. I don't like the taste of bass personally, but smallmouth, oh, those things are fun to catch. So fun. So if I had a pond big enough to support smallmouth to where they would get 3 to 5 pound smallmouth, that would be fun, be cool, but I would probably still end up wanting to harvest some out of there, because you don't, well, that's also why you want to put different sized fish in there, so one doesn't overtake and just eat out everything. And it's also a good idea to practice like a slot limit on your pond, like release the small ones, like let's say here in Kansas our limit is the bass have to be at least 15 inches long. So let's say in your pond you start from, I think you can, I'm not sure, you'd want to check with your wildlife and game, but if you own the pond, I don't think that you have to worry about size limits, but I would still do it as a good measure practice. So let's say 15 to 20 inches. Keep the fish between 15, that's close to 15 and 20 inches in length. That way you get the bigger ones in there and they're for reproducing. And then the smaller size to get to the medium size to where you can eat them. And also that's depending on species too. Is you want to, for crappie, maybe 10 inches, 10 to 15 inches. And so you got a 5-inch limit, maybe, or however you'd want to do it. But let's say you want to make sure that they're at least 10 inches, and let's say your crappie get to 20 inches in there for like the bigger ones. So 10 to 16. That way you release the bigger ones. Better genetics for the pond, for the other fish. Really I think you should practice a slot limit anywhere you fish. Milford has them on, I think they do walleye and blue cat out here. I wish Kansas would start doing the slot limit for flathead though. I really do. That would probably be the best idea that Kansas could do. It would make a lot of people mad at first because they wouldn't be able to keep everything, but it'd be better for everyone else in the future. And the fish themselves. No, I'm off topic a little. Oh, that's a guard that's dead in the water, or what's left of it. The skins of the gar come back. So, go a quick review. First, you want to start off by digging your pond, adding cover to it while it doesn't have water in it, and that can be whatever you choose to be, various things, as long as it's going to stay on the bottom. Don't, like, I guess you could have something that floats like in the middle of an island or something that's connected to like make like a tree thing that goes down and an avatar thing that comes out, so you have like a little shady spot in the middle of the lake somewhere, or your pond. That'd be kind of cool. I just gave myself an idea. So anyways, start with then after you get your cover in the pond, different depths and stuff, then you go with a forage species of fish. Numerous. I would see I'd add a few different types of minnows, but definitely a fathead, since here in Kansas. I'd probably also add shiners too. And there's also some smaller sunfish species that you could add. Then after you get your forage fish, let them reproduce at least 2 years. 2 to 3 years. 3 years would probably be better because you want to make sure you have a good forage base. Then after that, onto your crappie, bluegill, or your bluegill, green sunfish, your smaller panfish, and then after that, larger panfish and catfish, channel cat, most likely. Well, if you want to go with bullhead, but I wouldn't suggest it because bullhead kind of take over. So, I hope this information is helpful to anyone who is thinking about building a pond in the future. And always check with your wildlife and game before you start stocking your pond in your Pacific state, or sometimes in your Pacific region of your state, There's some rules that vary from region to region. Just always make sure you do your research first before you start putting fish in your pond. And that's about it. Yeah. Peace and long life, y'all.